Morning. Good morning. So, hope everybody's warm. Where I live, it's a lot colder than we were used to expecting, so it's been chilly. So, ideas for today. Spend some time over the week working on where we left off on the GraphQL implementation, writing some unit tests. That's kind of really what I was doing a little bit of. But there were some comments on some previous videos from last week. Still having issues with this. I just replaced all the HDMI cables. So not sure what the deal is there. But I spent some time looking at comments that people had and wanted to go ahead and take some time to answer those questions and go through my thoughts. So let's start. So here's a comment that I got from Burke. I don't want to try to say the last part, but here. I'm curious about the design pattern you're using and would appreciate your insights. Specifically, could you explain the reasoning behind placing all the models into a single folder outside of the core app rather than organizing them according to their respective applications? So, first thing I would suggest is if you're new to actually developing in Django, I would recommend just like coming to their Django website and doing their starter application. So if you go to the get started, there's actually a writing your first Django app, and it talks through here in the tutorial kind of the way the app gets, or the way your development environment gets initialized, and like how they organize it to start, and kind of the idea around how your project should be organized. So to go back to the question, pull it back up. The main way that Django expects you to kind of organize your project is when you do a start project, this my site, what they call here, is kind of the top level, or is going to be the what I have called core in my project. And then Django tutorial is going to be the like folder that houses everything. And then essentially, like, the idea is that my site has the ability to contain multiple applications, or what they call apps. And so you would have the core, or in my case core, you'd have the top level my site configures everything for all the apps that you're installing, and it's like, what is it, completely separated. It's isolated from the actual implementations for the apps. So anything that would be any configurations or models or settings that should be contained or be leveraged by every app would be included here. And then if you scroll down a little more, you'll see here where it does this, you do the start app command. The start app is where we have it called awaken fit, and it creates a separate folder within my core that is the settings and the configurations that are specific to my application. So this is where your models are going to be, the views, the tests. They're all related to my specific app, which is awaken fit, not the hosting service that I'm going to use or whatever, which is like core. So the idea would be if I had multiple apps in my project, so we can kind of pull up the VS Code real quick. But the idea would be is in backend, I could have multiple apps that live next to Awaken Fit. So maybe I want to write some other functionality, or like another app that could build on or add other functionality that's related to what I want. I would have another folder here. So I would go in to my manage, and I would say manage start app, some other name, and they would create another folder in here. And then in my core settings, I would include that as another app that's installed in my site. So hopefully that makes sense. As for the reason why I kind of got away from using a single model's py file to a module, is I like breaking my individual objects out into their own file. It makes it a little easier, and especially for me to keep track of what's what. And then also, if like some of these they get kind of big, especially with some of these choice fields, and so I'd rather have individual files that are 86 lines long instead of like one giant model file that's a couple hundred lines long and having to search and find what I want. So hopefully that answers the first question. I don't know where, oh, it's on the screen. I'm silly. So Burke had a few other questions. So here is another one from the week 2 video. What might be the reasoning for using I-contains but starting searching string with capital letter in the Django doc? So I-contains is, let's just provide some context. So when you're doing a filtering on a query set, you can, I think this is the one I want. When you provide filtering on query sets, there's like the double underscore that you can do in filter. So we'll actually look at code that I have here. So if we go to domains, I believe it's movement. Yeah. So we see here, I have a get movement by a name operation, and I provide it with this underscore I contains. So I contains is case insensitive matching. So it'll do either a dot lower or dot upper. I'm not sure what the implementation is. I haven't checked. But it basically just checks, it takes whatever you pass in as a string, and regardless of if it's capitalized or not, it will search for a field. It'll search the field or the name field for something that contains what I'm passing in, irrelevant of the casing. So to the question, why did they in the documentation, man, I gotta stop doing that. Why in the documentation are they starting the string with a capital letter? Because it doesn't matter. If they're doing I contains, the parameter that they're using as the filter can be uppercase, lowercase. It doesn't matter. So that's why they could have started with the lowercase and it would have been the same, right? Furthermore, since the create movement function yields either a movement instance or none, it would be better to update. So I thought this was a really good suggestion. So what I've actually done is all of my all of my domains that will create objects or records, I've added typing for making them optional. So within the typing library that Python now provides, there is an optional parameter, and what you can do is if the operation or the function or method would return something or nothing, either like in this case it's either going to create none, return none, or an actual movement record, I can now provide type hinting for the return type as an optional value of whatever it is. And so I've updated all of the domains to provide that. And we'll see. Let's see. I think just double checking. Optional. But yeah, so Burke, that was a great suggestion. I wasn't sure how I could do that, so I did make that update, and hopefully that makes it a little more clear. Then finally, Burke had one more comment. This one's a little bit longer. I wanted to follow up on my previous comment about your create exercise method. I noticed that the get by user ID function is also returning none, but the type hinting doesn't reflect that. And my HDMI cable is still giving me a hard time. I'm not sure why. Okay, so I've addressed that. That's cool. All the ones that could potentially return none, I've updated to be optional. Additionally, I believe the VS Code folder in the git ignore file by default, since it contains personal preferences, that may not be relevant to the project. So for the VS Code settings, I have them as something that's included in the repository because it helps make sure that the formatter is getting executed. I did set up the pre-commit hooks to run the formatter as well, but that doesn't guarantee those are going to run unless I set it up in GitHub, which I did. But just to make it simpler, I have it as a project specific setting, so that way if anybody were to pull down this repo, theirs is also going to get formatted on automatically. Regarding the dummy record, I found the name a bit unclear. The term created record suggests that a record has been created, so it might be worth revisiting naming conventions to ensure. So I have it named as created record. He's talking about in these create methods again. So I have it named as that, and I'm consistent with all of my create methods. The reason why I personally use that is it's either something or nothing. So if I get created record is none, that means I actually didn't create anything and no database operations were executed. And honestly, one of the big things with coding is like being consistent. So I've tried to be consistent across the board in all of my create methods to use the same kind of pattern here where I'm creating a dummy record with none, validating the data, and then if it's valid, I'll create the record and return that record, or else I'm just going to return the nothing. So yeah, I mean, in my opinion, the name is straightforward, and it's consistent. That's the biggest thing for me, is I want to be consistent on each of those domains to make sure they're all looking similar. Okay. So then he has a question here on the schema. In the schema py file, instead of explicitly typing all the fields of the model, you could use all, as you do in the Django models. Furthermore, in the query class, you should inherit from the graphene object type, which is right according to documentation. It seems that you are inheriting from the base object class in both the domains and the schema object. So to answer that question, or I guess it's not really a question, but you're correct. I was using the default Python object type as the parent class for the schemas. So if we actually come in here, we'll see, man, this is going to drive me crazy. The HDMI cable, I just swapped them with brand new ones. I did go ahead and update this to be the object type from graphene. So these are all updated for the queries. Boom, boom, boom. As for the comment about the fields, so one thing that to mention is, yes, I could come in here and I could convert this to a underscore all underscore, but there's a reason why I haven't. It's because I have a base object that includes 2 additional fields for each of my records that I don't want to be exposed through GraphQL. So I spent a few years doing Salesforce, and so one thing that Salesforce has on every object, if you're not familiar, Salesforce is a CRM. Oh man, customer relational mapping or something like that. I forget what it stands for, but it's a really cool tool for like sales, and they use it a lot in like the help desk kind of IT support world. So whenever you call into a help desk and they have to pull up your record and stuff, they're typically using a CRM as their back end. But in Salesforce, one thing that I really liked is that there's this idea every object automatically inherits these two fields. It's a date created and date last modified. So I really felt that was helpful, and I don't really use it necessarily as a attribute that users need to see. It's more so something internal to myself that I like to keep and check on as I'm developing, and I think it's something nice to have just as like a helpful feature. So to the question, the reason why I'm not including all is because I don't want to expose those two fields to users through the GraphQL schema. Lastly, I noticed while you mentioned using isort for import order, it doesn't seem to be included in the YAML file or pre-commit hooks. So I remembered I did intend on using isort initially, but then I almost immediately ran into an issue where dependency order mattered for my project. So I got rid of isort and stopped using it. The reason is like there might be something that I'm doing incorrectly or I could be doing better. But because some of the different portions of the code depend on each other, so like the models don't depend on anything, but the schema depends on domains, and some of the domains are dependent on the models, obviously. And so like the order in which things execute and the way they're imported, if I'm not careful, I'll run into a situation where I get an error saying that like trying to import something before it's finished importing. So that's why I dropped the isort and have just been kind of going at it myself. And I mean, the project isn't so big yet that it becomes a problem. So we'll have to potentially readdress that in the future. But let's see. So that kind of answers questions that people had posted on the YouTube. Thank you, Burke, for asking questions. That was good. All right. So let us pick up where we left off last week. So close this. I don't need it anymore. We were working on the GraphQL library and the endpoints. So we started this last Friday. We have our branch. We're making moves. So we're going to continue with that. But one thing that's really important to me is code coverage. So what I've been doing is we can kind of look at it. Actually, let me start the server first before we do anything. So let's come here. Let's do Python manage run server. Okay, perfect. So we should be able to reload this. If you weren't here last week, this is our graphical interface. GraphQL is nice. It gives you this like little guy that you can come in here and you can write little queries for you, data queries in this interface, and it'll automatically, or not automatically, it gives you the ability to just go ahead and execute them right here, get the result instantly, not have to worry about it. So it's very helpful for debugging and kind of monitoring your schema. So let's see. So we have sets, exercise, workouts, movements. Perfect. So we have our queries. So what I got started on, I believe, toward the end of the last week, was building the mutations. So what we can see, or actually I started doing validation. That's where I left off. So one thing we need to be aware of is anytime, okay, taking a step back. So GraphQL has two concepts. One is a query where you're fetching data. You're able to ask the database for data based off of the format that you're requesting. And then the second functionality is mutations, which are your CRUD statements. So it'd be a create, well, not CRUD, it'd be CUD, I guess. So create, update, or delete. So mutations are the creates, the updates, deletes. Queries are your reads. So with any time we're hitting the database and we actually want to make edits to the database, we need to do some kind of validation on the inputs that the user provided to us. So let's see. Really what should be happening is we're only going to have, well, not only, but as of right now, there's only one mutation that we have for our GraphQL. So we want to be able to create a workout, and it's a template workout. So as you can see here, oh, I need to change this. I think I changed this. I did change this. So one thing I did make a change to, I saw this as a pattern that other people used that I kind of liked, is they have in their domains, they maintain a dictionary called error messages, and then each error message has its own key with the actual error message that it'll return. So I need, where did we go? I lost the thing that I had open a second ago. Is it here? It is here. So we actually need to update this to be error messages, and we want to get the unauthenticated error message from there and add that to our thing. Perfect. So let's actually change this from append to extend. What I decided to do as a pattern, I'm not sure how I feel about it yet, so we're still kind of just messing around with it. But what I did was I introduced a mutation domain. And the idea here is that the mutation domain is responsible for validating the data coming in on the mutations, and it will be responsible for handing off any validation duties to the other domains. So in this case, I have a mutation domain, and here I'm validating sets, and I'm actually calling the set domain to go through and validate the individual sets and report back to me any validations. And so similar, I'm not sure why that's funky. Let's double check what's going on here. Why are we not getting our nice little like highlighting here? Validate. Oh, it's because I changed this. So we want to validate template standard set, which is, I hate when it highlights. Oh my gosh. And we want to validate completed standard set. Boom. There. So those are now fixed. But the idea here is basically I'm going to validate the workout. And in the workout, I'm going to go through each exercise that was included, and I'm going to validate the workout, or the exercise, sorry. And then for each set associated with the exercise, I'll validate the sets. Make sense? And the reason why I've separated it into its own domain is, in my mind, it's a higher order domain, because it's cross functionality across the different domains. So having it just be within the individual domains doesn't quite make sense. So I'm a layer above the individual objects. Now I'm interacting, or I'm at the layer where user interaction is happening. So the user sends in some data, I'm processing it, and I'm handing it off to who knows best about the individual objects and letting them validate and report back to me what their findings are. So that's the idea here and why it's its own thing. So I haven't written any unit tests for this yet. But we can get that going here. We need to use extend for all these because these are returning lists and we just want to have one giant list at the end instead of having lists within lists. So we need to fix this one. These are non-standard sets. These are standard sets. Okay, so we need to, I think, I changed this to be validate. So you see here on the right, I validate completed non-standard set, validate template non-standard set, validate completed non-standard set. So I need to actually I don't think I want this to be do a pass here. Well, these are all going to be, yeah, these are all elifs because it can only be one. And I guess this is where it makes sense. Should I go ahead and do a match? I don't think I've actually written a match. I haven't done this in a while. Oh. So, oh my gosh. This thing's driving me crazy, man. I switched all the cables. Why is it freaking out on me? Oops. So, one thing that was introduced fairly recent, I guess not super recently, let's see. Python introduced in 3.10 this match syntax, which is similar to that of like a switch statement in Java or C++, whatnot. And so why don't we go ahead and actually implement that for here? So we're gonna do how do we want to do this? So it would be match subject. Does it make sense to use match here? Can I do... I wonder... I don't feel like I can do it the way I want because I don't know if I can do this as like a parameter after the fact. We're gonna leave it like this for now. I'm gonna think about it and see if I can figure it out. So we'll see. But for right now, this is fine, I think. So completed set, we need to validate this guy. So we'll just copy paste this and we'll do, this is the template one, this is the template one, this is the completed one, this is the completed one. There. So now what we're doing here is we're validating the input set. We're looking to see if it's a standard set that's a completed one or a template. And then we're doing checking to see if it's a non-standard set, so it's a completed non-standard or a completed template. Perfect. If we couldn't find it, we're gonna just log it as an error here. Oops, I don't want to extend here, I want to append. Okay, so we're gonna go through validate each guy. We'll extend whatever happens in each guy to our errors and return back. Okay. I think that looks pretty good. So this is where it's going to be important because I'm going to need to do some unit testing to make sure these lines work. So let's actually do that right now. So we have our tests, domains. Let's do, oh, I already made one. Cool. It's literally empty. Perfect. And we don't want that here. We don't need that here necessarily. Let's just open this to make sure I don't make a mistake again. I think we want these. And then we'll do class mutation domain test. And we'll do a setup. Let's go ahead and put little test methods for each of these. I don't know what the deal is. It drives me crazy. I wonder if it's the capture card. That would make sense actually. Test, validate, set input, def test, validate exercise input, pass, def test, validate workout input. Oops. Now, these are going to validate each other. So like if I call validate test workout, it's going to call these, if I do a validate workout calls validate exercise, which calls validate set. So just doing test validate workout itself will cover all of the scenarios, but in my opinion, it's better to start with like the simplest case, which is this guy, and building up from there. So what we will do is, here, let's copy our test user that we use each time, and we will need a movement to reference. Just copy that over. So we need to import obviously the movement domain from domains, import movement. Oh, I need to go up one more directory. Domains, import movement domain. From models, import movement. Okay, so this gives us a movement that we'll be able to have for our workout, and we'll have a user that we're able to use for our workout. All right, I'm gonna pause real quick before I get too much further and check to see what's going on with this HDMI cable. All right. Not sure what the heck is going on with that, but that's really frustrating. So, okay, so we have a mutation domain. We've created a test user, a test movement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here to the test set, and you'll see I have some stuff that I've created already for including these kind of sets. So let's look at our mutation. So we need to have a scenario for each of these. So let's grab this stuff that we have here. So let's grab, not this one. This is bad input. That's a terrible idea. So let's grab this one. I'll put this here. We're gonna grab, so that's a standard template set. So let's grab a standard completed set. Oops. This is a completed set. Wait. Oh, I'm silly. I have the wrong thing here. This is bad input, so I don't want those. I want this guy. This is supposed to be a, whoops. So template set. There we go. It will matter for our scenario that we're about to do because it's going to check the type of the object. So let's double check what we're doing. So template, let's grab this template guy, put that there. This is going to be a template or standard completed set. Perfect. Standard completed set. That's good. And then let's grab a template non-standard set, which is this guy. And a completed non-standard set, which is this guy. There. So now we've grabbed, so let's come here. We want to do from models, import set. Perfect. Now we should be able, save here. We should be able to call our validate set input with these 4 different guys that we've just brought over and see the results. So let's do, I kind of am going to group them together. So let's do results equals, I need to include from domains, import mutation domain. And so we want to do mutation domain dot validate, and we'll do standard templates. Okay. And so we'll do self dot assert equal, and we'll do 0 len of results. And we'll do, I have to type it, spell it correctly, and we'll do no errors should have been returned. And I'll kind of just repeat this pattern. So we just want to kind of do this again, but we're going to change our input to the call to that guy. Hey, I did actually, the first 20 minutes of the stream, Burke, I spent actually going over your questions and answering them. So I really appreciate you putting those comments. That was good. I think some good discussion about it and why I've done what I've done. So if you want to kind of go back and look at them, they're the first, I think, 20 minutes of the stream. So gonna copy these guys again, and we'll just change the inputs. And the final one, do that, do that, do that. There. So we should have, oops, standard template. We want that guy. So we have template completed, non-standard template, non-standard completed. Okay, so that covers our 4 scenarios here. And so what I can actually do, not scroll, I can do, let's shut down the Win server or the Python run. So if we do a coverage run, we should see, hopefully, passes on the, oh, we got an error. So we'll see what the error is. I think that's actually one of the tests that I was fixing earlier errored, but we'll see. I also still have a random print somewhere. Get rid of this. Don't need that anymore. So let's see. A tuple of types. So there is an issue where I can't just pass it the name of the type of object that I want. So let's actually look at this. Yeah, I have to a type or a class or a tuple of types in our classes. Yeah, so I can't just provide it the name. That is that a problem? So I think it's going to be a problem because this, let's look. So if we go to, so we have these input types for sets, perfect. If we go to workout, where is it? The workout, oh, it's because workout create has exercises, exercise creates have sets. So I think I'm going to run into an issue with a circular dependency. We can try. So where are we? We're here. So if we do from what am I using? Oh, I am. How do I want to do this? These are under the schema. So let's try that. From schema dot set import. We want pull this over here. We want the set create template, set create completed, set create, and set create that guy. Yep. Let's do, oops, didn't mean to get rid of that. Let's fix these quotes. I think I'm pretty confident I'm going to run into a circular import error here in a second. But we can see. Yeah. I wonder if there's a way to, with Django, I forget if I can just like halt execution as soon as I run into an error or a fail. Cannot import name, partially initialized module. Yeah. And this is when it ran. There's a couple things I could do. Can I actually do what I'm thinking? Why did this test fail? Validate set input on... Oh, this test failed. Wait, how did this test run? It failed on line 31. Here. I wonder if it failed because it couldn't import? Would that be the thing? Let's see what the results were. Couldn't validate the set data provided, so it hit the catch-all. Interesting. So I wonder if it's an issue here because I'm dynamically creating them, that it does not like that. Interesting. So what is... Let's actually do this. Let's do print type. Do that. Class type is type. So that would explain the... Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I thought it creates an instant... it creates an instance of a class with this name, but inherits from the object. See, I was trying to get around having to import the actual class itself and create the objects that way. So by using the type, I was trying to dynamically create the object for testing purposes, but that doesn't seem to be working the way I had thought it would. So that causes a little bit of a problem. Because let's think. So our schema builds off a workout. That's our input for our mutation. Nobody should be creating individual exercises or sets. They should be creating this top level workout, and the workout will have a list of exercises. If it's a completed one, well, either way, it's gonna have a list of exercises. Then this is gonna reference the exercise guy. And so within the, oh man, of course, as I'm getting on a roll, it freaks out. As I go into the exercise, we're gonna see there's either a completed or a template of this, and it's gonna have the types of sets that can be associated with the exercise. Okay. So let's think. Let's actually put down a note. Make a note somewhere. I can just do that. So workout contains an exercise. Exercise contains a set. And so for our validation, we are having to call exercise and then set domain to validate them. The workout, we don't have any validation on the workout yet, so that's fine. So if I need to import the exercise domain, I need to change this actually. Need to do has adder exercise and call it standard set. And I don't need to do an and there. I'm kind of a little bit backtracking, but the reason why I have to do has adder is because standard set is an optional parameter on the exercise. So you'll see here they're required false. So I need to actually check to see if it has the attribute of standard set before I can go forward, or else it'll break, or there's a potential for it to break. So let's do that. Delete this guy. So we're just checking here, basically like, hey, was the optional parameter passed to us? And if it is, we'll continue. So to go back to where I was, let's think. Can I just import the things here that I need? Let's see. From schema.set import these guys. And then delete this guy. We don't need this right now. Let's go ahead and change how we're doing this. So standard template set equals set create. And I don't know 100% how, if I can just like, since these don't typically have inits, because this is handled in the background by Graphene when the mutation is called through like its means. I don't know. I should get a default one, I'm sure. So let's just try it, see what happens. Sequence number equals 1, min reps equals 1, max reps equals 6, and delete. So we'll just we'll do this. Comment out the rest of these for a second. And run it. It should blow up pretty quickly if we ran into something silly. Template sets should not contain. Oh, should contain. So it got further and we didn't run into the issue of the imports, so that's good. But why did it explode? Why did it return an error? Let's look at here. Where is it? Here. We got this error back. Where are we? So let's come here. And we should see, where did that error actually get printed from? Don't care about this now. Oh, I'm silly because it's results. It's printing results, and then the fail is after that. Template should not. Okay, Okay, so we should be able to go to our set domain, wherever that is. We should be able to see, what is it? Template sets. So where do I use this in here? In this guy. That's weird, because why is it saying a sequence number, min reps, max reps? So let's do this. Let's do a print standard set dot dict. So we'll print the dictionary for the standard set to see what's getting passed to it and why it thinks it has both. Yeah, we can, Burke, we can, this is gonna take a little bit, so we can stop and I can answer some questions. Is it Burke? Is that how you pronounce it? So what did it return? Couldn't validate the set data provided. So pre-commit hooks, any Git hooks are local to the environment that I'm working on. So unless they actually install, like do the setup. So if we actually look here, it's in here. Sorry. So in here, I think I have the pre-commit hook somewhere. Yeah. So I have pre-commit here set as a dependency on the project, but if the person developing doesn't actually install the pre-commit and install the pre-commit hook that I've written in the wherever it is in the YAML file, it actually won't get set up in their local development environment, and so they won't have Black running as a pre-commit hook in their development environment. So that's why I just have it as like a extra dependency, like, hey, it's always in the VS Code for sure. It gets run on GitHub Actions anyway, but just as like, I don't know, double checking. In my opinion, I've just kept it as a project setting. Couldn't find validate. Couldn't validate the set data provided. Where the heck is that? Okay. Interesting. Couldn't So this didn't catch my is instance of my set. So why did that not work? Create template input. I'm gonna change this. I don't like putting contractions in here because then it makes it so I'm like, I don't like having the apostrophe, especially since if I'm using double quotes everywhere. I don't know, having the apostrophe throws me off. About muscle choices, I cannot write the part of comment here, so if you could go back and check. Let's go. Oops. I have it open here. Let's see. Videos. No, wait, how do I do this? I don't see anything about the muscle choices in the comments. Oh. What? I did not see this before. Let me... Where is this? Click on this guy. Oops. This comment's long. Let's look. Week 1, part 2. How do I go to the video? There we go. Pause that. We don't need to see the video. Did it pause? Okay. So let's look at the comment. Okay. Typically, Django creates a subfolder with the name home to hold the project-related settings. Yes. However, in your case, it seems core folder is outside of that structure. If core represents the project name and we can fit is an application, shouldn't the application reside within? So we kind of talked about that at the beginning. The way the Django stuff likes it. Let's go back here. They have it so that if you follow the tutorial, they build it so that you end up with when you do start apps, you have a separate folder inside of it that has everything. So you'll end up with a project that's formatted the way I have mine, and you can actually, what's a good example? But the idea is that, like I talked about, you're building it so that you have multiple apps that are their own structure, and the top level, in my case core, is supposed to define all the apps that are going to be in my, or it'll have settings for all the apps that I want in my website. Okay. You could also do choices like this. Yeah, I could do a nested under the choices. Yeah, the end of file handling. I like to have the extra end of line, like new line, and Black does that for me anyway, so I don't have to worry about it. But yeah, it always ends on an empty line. Um, but for this, can I do that? I don't know. Because the way, if you actually, let's look. It's a car field. And the way they reference it here is it's supposed to be tuples. Oh, I see. You could provide it as it. Oh, okay. So you can provide it as like a dictionary. This is newer, I think, because I remember it only being tuples before. Can you have nested then? A mapping or iterable in the format described below to use as choices for this field if you are given the choice. Yeah, I don't know if you can do nested because it's saying the second element has to be human readable. If a mapping is given, the key element is the actual value set on the model, and the second element is the human readable. Yeah, so it doesn't look like, based off of what this is saying, is that you could provide nesting under here. It needs to be a flat structure. Can be defined as a callable that expects no arguments and returns the format described above. Ah. Yeah, see, this is a Django 5 thing. This is something new that I didn't see before. Because I just started using 5 recently. Ah, you can also collect your available choices into named groups that can be used for organizational purposes. Okay. Interesting. This is all new. They didn't have this before, so I'll have to do some research on. This is cool. I had no idea you could do that. Nice. Yeah, so I'll check this out. I'll have to do some research on how I want to handle this, but I appreciate it. That's interesting. Let's go ahead and minimize that guy, but I'll keep this open because that's super helpful. So what was this issue that I'm having? Having an issue with figuring out the type. I did change this. Did this save? This did save. Doo-doo. Where are we? We are here. Is instance. Is that what I want? I feel like that's what I want. And this is a template, so it should come in here and execute. Let's save. We'll do a type here on this guy just to see what it is. See if that gives us any more insight into it. That error is really annoying. Template sets shouldn't contain. Okay, so I feel like I'm getting something on like multiple places. So let's do this. Let's do Python manage test awake and fit tests domains dot what is this? Test mutation. There. Helps if I type it correctly. Tests. This is like one thing that drives me crazy is it gives me this thing where it doesn't let me import the module for some reason when I drill down into the test, and I'm not sure why. Cannot import name mutation domain from partially initialized module domains. So this might be why this isn't. I might actually be failing on like a different test that was giving me that error. So let's look to figure out what's going on. So workout is trying to import mutation domain. Oh, I wonder if it's because this is the workout schema. I don't know. Here, let's try this. Import mutation domain. I feel like sometimes when you do imports on the same, yeah. Oh, what the heck? I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do this. Okay, so that didn't fix it. This is one thing that I hate about Python is the imports sometimes are so annoying to deal with. If I'm not doing it, there's got to be something that I'm doing wrong when I do these that creates a problem. From domains. So what does the mutation domain depend on? Mutation depends on exercise and set. We're on the workout query. So where are we? Where is this? From so let's see. So we're on test. Test mutation is where we're starting. It's trying to call the movement domain. Okay, so wait, where are we? Movement domain. It depends on nothing. Oh, because then it's trying to call the domains in it. So let's go to here. So when it tries to call this, it needs to have, it loads this first, and then we have this here. Then it gets down to from mutation, import to mutation domain. Why is it? Let's see. So mutation depends on exercise and set. I could probably get rid of this actually. Let's do that. We'll make this a little easier on ourselves. We shouldn't be writing our tests depend on anything anyway. Oh man, that flickering is gonna drive me crazy. Let's come here. And we'll just do this guy. Get rid of that. Do this. So we create a movement. Okay. So the only domain importing here is the mutation domain. Still. So let's see. Import mutation domain in the... So in test mutation, we're trying to import mutation domain. In the init, we go to the import mutation domain. And then the mutation domain, we try to import schema. Within the schema, we try to import workout query. And then within workout query, workout, we import the mutation domain. So, mutation domain depends on the set schema. So if I so if we go here, we go to our schema. Our set schema is at the very bottom. So let's look at our set. I should be able to, no, not this guy. I want this guy. I should be able to potentially move this to the top. We'll see. See if that addresses the issue. Nope. Cannot import, so let's see. Test mutation needs mutation. Domain init imports this. Oh, I know what I can do. I don't really... I think that's actually fine. Nobody should be using the mutation domain except for... yeah, I think this is fine. I want to do it this way, actually. This is better. I'm going to explicitly, instead of trying to roll everything up into the init, I'm going to explicitly tell it the... who has access to what. So let's go here to... This is the mutation domain. This is the test. Where are we? We need to be workout. And we need to go to here, mutation. I think that'll fix it. No, did not fix it. What am I doing wrong? From partially initialized mutation domain. So I'm already going directly, oh. Are you talking about for this, Burke? Are you talking about this part? What am I doing wrong with this import? Because it's going to drive me crazy. Test mutation, imports mutation domain. Mutation domain. Import set. Why am I calling the init on the schema? Huh. Because I'm going directly here to wonder if I just define these in here to like clean it up. That would make sense too. I don't know if I like having that, but then it maintains at least all the input, at least the set inputs are in one spot. We can try it, see what happens. I don't know if I like that, but we'll see. Do this, and then we need to import string input object type. Don't need this or this or that. There. So now the only problem is exercise depends on it, does it not? That's the domain. The exercise schema does. So if I go to from set mutation from dot mu, what is this? What is this? What is this? What is this? Oh, this is in the, oh man, I definitely don't want that. Shoot. I don't want to have, this is in the domain now, and I don't want the necessarily, this is where it's like interesting. Do I want to have the domain keep track of the format of these objects? I would rather them be in the schema, because I think of it as like a model, right? It's another object that's separate. It's its own layer. The schema is its abstraction. The model is the database abstraction, right? They are related, but I think having the domain be responsible for validating those levels is where it should be, not housing it. Because I definitely don't want to have exercise import from the mutation domain. I don't like that. Shoot. What do we do? I'm gonna Control Z this. Bring that all back. But I also don't want to maintain it in two places. That's silly. But how can I... Let's see. Let's look at Graphene to see if they have any suggestions on how we can order this stuff. So this is specific to a mutation. So one thing that I see immediately that they do that I don't necessarily like is this. They just provide like this argument subclass under the mutation, and then they list all the fields. One thing that I've seen as kind of like an industry best practice is typically you use this, what I've done here, where you create an input object type, and then your mutation will take a input. So here. So I define just like one top level object as the input for the mutation, and then I fill everything in underneath that instead of having like this huge list of everything at the top level. I just want one top level object, and then everything kind of fans out or fits underneath it from there. So that's one thing in their documentation that I'm not a huge fan on. But, see, they're using like the DRF and forms, and I don't want to necessarily do that, I don't think. And then it's talking about database transactions. How do I want, it doesn't really talk about introspection. What is this? Oh, I can generate the schema layouts. Okay, so let's think. There's got to be a way for me to check the type of object I'm dealing with without comparing it against the actual class itself. How do I want to do this? Compare objects. No. Check object type to class, or no, string of class name. I don't know, something like that. Okay, so I could do something like that. I don't know if I like that. But they would get me around having to import or have these guys like be here available directly. So let's try it. It's not exactly the best, so we'll see how I feel about it here in a second. Set input dot name. It's not pretty. It's not pretty. I'm not sold, but let's see if it resolves our circular import. It does. But then it immediately fails because of that. So we'll try this out and see how we feel after we get this going. We'll see. Oops. Not what I want. I want that guy. All right. Failure. Template could not. Template should not contain min-max or duration. Should contain that or duration, not both. Well, isn't that crazy? It only contains one, not both. So where did it fail? So let's go back to our test mutation. We're passing in a template input. So it should be coming here in the set domain. Let's go to our definition. So we're getting here. Ah, see, this is a KW args guy. what is... Oh, I think this is an issue I had before. Maybe. Let's think. So we're gonna run the test set. And so we should see, like, this is gonna pass, right? Hopefully. But we should still see here, look. So we see here, it has like at the top level, these values, sequence number, duration, min reps. But we see on the one that I ran where we created instances of the actual input objects, they're hidden under KW args. So there's something here. Let's actually look at our set test. And I wonder if I need to change. Should I be importing the create objects directly here and then testing it that way? I feel like I should, honestly. From... Oh man, this could drive me crazy. Schema.set import. I guess I could just copy this line directly because they're the same. Let's see if that gives me an import issue. It does not. Okay. So I think we want to actually come down to these tests down here at the bottom, and we're going to have to do some edits. Because we actually need to deal with the real guys. Set, create, completed, parent input. And this is going to be, how did I do it over here? Why is my HDMI being so difficult? Set type set drop. Associated sets equals a list, and we're gonna do save that because that's going to be impossible to read. And we're going to copy that, do that. 2. We'll do 6 and 115 there. So if I save this, come back here, run the test set, that test might fail now. And we'll see. Yeah, error. List object is not iterable. Validate completed non-standard set, which is this guy. So I wonder if I should do like associated sets equals list. Oh, list. No, I don't need to do it like that, do I? I should be able to just Why would it not like that? So let's go here. Wait, we have it here. Nope, that's the schema. This is the domain. So let's see. Validate completed non-standard set. Validate completed standard. Validate template. Validate completed. So let's do print non-standard set dot associated sets. See what the heck is going on. I don't know where this other print is coming from. Print. Okay, so we don't want this anymore. That's not helping us. So why did it set create completed input? Why is it only one? Let's come here. We'll do this, do that, do that. I don't know if that'll work. It won't, because I need to tell it the class name, which is set domain test. Then do that. List object is not iterable. Oh, because it's a list in... man. I wonder if writing tests at this validation level, like in the domain, is going to be not worth it, and that I should be writing tests for the mutation itself, and then it will, by default, if the mutation tests pass, that means the validation test would pass. Because there's some interesting things that happen with GraphQL behind the scenes. Essentially, when you call a mutation, the mutation object you define, right? Like, here, let's look at our inputs. Our inputs are defined. This is the mutation domain. So like here, these input object types are defined as int, string, list, whatever, that kind of field. And so those aren't Python base objects. So there's some wrapping that they do to handle that object and make it like GraphQL specific and some logic associated with it. So essentially what happens is once it's called within the scope of a mutation, there's some magic that happens behind the scenes in GraphQL where it converts it from an int to a Python lower int. So that way we can use it for validation and things. So trying to like create these objects directly and then validate them is probably not the way to go. And I'm going to end up having a lot of frustration validating them that way. So I think what my approach is going to be is I'm still going to maintain having a separate mutation domain like I have here, and it's gonna validate, it's going to call the validation for the inputs, but in the tests for the individual domains, I won't have any tests that directly call test set validation or test exercise validation or anything like that. I'll just leave it up to the mutation test to cover it. Hopefully that makes sense. But it's going to take some rework, so I'm going to have to go back and make some edits to what I've done and where we are. But I think that's a good part to leave off on for today. Yeah, so hopefully answered some questions earlier, provided a little bit more context as to what I'm trying to do, how it's organized, how Django does a few things, and we'll go from there. Let me think. I should be back online again next Friday. Maybe a little later. Maybe I felt like 9 a.m. was a little early, I think, today. I just wanted to kind of get a jump start on it. And yeah. Thank you. See you guys next week.